Alright fellas, so here's the situation. It was not a good day today, and I definitely had to use my AK. So we've seen the plate burner on propane before. Easy peasy, right? And even on diesel. But can it be done on waste oil? I had a customer wanting me to build one that works on waste oil. And wow. What's up fellas? We're doing a job for Aron today. And he has commissioned a waste oil plate burner for a smelting pot. And we've already seen one option. But it probably wasn't the most suitable. Typically, this burner design does not work very well with waste oil. So I've made some modifications that will hopefully make it a suitable component to his project. The goal today is to get this thing to work without a lot of smoke. Can't have any more smoke than a campfire. That's kind of the goal here. So that's what we got going on. All right, fellas. So this is just one of those days where I just got beat to death. I got up at 7:30 this morning, was outside by 8, and nothing was going well. Yeah, I can get the thing lit. It takes a little finicking around. I'm just now learning it right here. So this is the first time I've ever done it. I did eventually get it down to where, you know, I could do it in under 30 seconds. But the subtleties and the cues that help me light this thing consist of unutterable communication. I can't tell a customer, hey, you need a 72 decibel hiss at a frequency of about 15 kilohertz to get this thing to light. Like, that's just not gonna happen. It's not practical. It's not how it works. So I am using an intuition that is learned over the course of many years of messing with these things that's helping me get this thing lit. Very little visual cues are being used as a reference to get this thing lit. I'm mostly listening to the sound of the burner to tell me what it wants and what it needs. For example, a lot of buffeting means you need more air or less fuel, one or the other. See here, I got it lit. It's smoking a little bit because it's still very cold, but that's just the problem. I got this thing lit, but I can't tell a customer how to perform a particular hiss of air. Sure, we can use rotometers and stuff like that, but we're just not going to do that. It's just not practical. It's too expensive to buy those things and hook them up. So I got myself in a bit of a jam here today. I have to make this thing user-friendly to be a viable product. All right, these are terrible conditions for testing. It's blazing sunlight out. This thing is extremely difficult to light. I feel like only an experienced operator would ever be able to get it lit. So it's definitely not a viable product in this state. I can get it lit, but I don't want to be getting a bunch of phone calls about people not being able to light this thing, and that's what's going to happen. So we're going to test this performance nonetheless to see what type of boiling action we can get out of this thing, see how much water we can boil with it. I don't think we've built or burnt a whole liter of fuel yet. This thing is very finicky and it's hard to light, so we got some adjustments to make. Okay, so we've added an ignition slash preheat port here. Gonna give this a try. I don't know what type of performance we'll see from this, if any at all. So I'm going to put the torch in there and let it heat things up a bit before we try and light it. And we'll go from there. Now, the total surface area of the hole on the top of this thing comes out to about a 2-inch diameter. So that's the surface area of all those little holes, which isn't, you know, restricted too much. I think for the most part, this combustion chamber is just a little bit too big. I think we need to take the diameter down to about right in here. and this top plate is too thick. We need to go back to a 16 gauge on that. Don't like that much. Give it a little air. Okay, so the ignition port did not work. I have learned how to light this thing. In extreme daylight, like broad daylight, you can't see the fireball in there. So that was making it very difficult in itself, but this is likely to happen in practice, so I still need to mitigate the issue. I'm not too happy with how hard it is to light this thing. Now, when I say hard to light, I can get it to light every time fairly easily, but I feel like the learning curve is extremely steep. I am listening to very subtle sounds and observing some cues that might be hard for other people to acquire quickly enough for them to not be blowing my phone up and freaking out on me. And so I don't want to sell something like this. It's just difficult. So we're going to try one more thing that I believe will make it a lot more user friendly. It may increase the performance, it may diminish it. I'm thinking it might increase the performance. One thing that I'm not liking is this top piece. It's made out of 1/8 inch stainless, and I probably should have just left that at a 16 gauge. It's not glowing quite as hot as I want it to.
That's why we took a completely different approach. Instead of waiting for parasites to attack, the ferment...
All right, fellas, we're back. We've made some modifications. I removed that ignition port. It was worthless. We're gonna give this a try, and hopefully this makes it more user-friendly. If it's still just as hard to light, I'm gonna chop that end back off and just put it back together the way it was, and people are just gonna have to learn how to use the thing. Okay, so the two modifications that we have made as we have widened the intake port by about 2 millimeters on, so you know, you're looking at 4 millimeters of diameter change there. Not much, maybe a little bit more than that. You can see here we're putting off quite a bit of smoke, but this is a cold burner. It's going to do that. The burner itself becomes the atomization mechanism with a system like this. So until we've built up some residual heat to help atomize that oil, it just doesn't like burning in that environment, because what's happening is the oil's hitting the walls of the combustion zone and causing a vapor. It's cooling off. So I'm getting smoked out here. It's much easier to light though. Even though we're seeing all this smoke here, the torch is down. Like, we ain't holding the torch on this thing for 80 seconds or whatever it was on the last one. It's warming up pretty quick. It's much more forgiving. Like, you can't accidentally lose the flame with this setup. So I'm definitely liking that. I'm just kind of messing around with it at this point to see what it does. But so a drastic improvement has been exhibited by the performance of this thing. It lights right up. I feel like I could sell this without getting phone calls all the time. Those phone calls will ruin your day too. I'll be all in a good mood. My eBay's up. I'm making sales, and then all of a sudden, bam! Hey man, you know that burner I bought from you? I can't get it lit. And I'm like, you gotta have a 72 decibel hiss at a 15 kilohertz frequency, man. Come on, dude. Get it together, bro. So yeah, it's quite the walkthrough. Luckily, I am able to walk my customers through these problems on the phone. I think that's definitely one of the things that sets me apart from China. So even though they steal some of my ideas, you can't call China and ask Wong Chong if you need a 70 decibel hiss at 15 kilohertz, because he ain't gonna be able to tell you. So I do got that going for me here. Luckily, I know what's going on with these things, but it's still a huge, you know, a buzzkill, whatever you want to call it. It'll ruin your day, these phone calls. It's heavy as the head that wears the crown, man, I'm telling you what. So it's a lot of ups and downs in this business. I'll be in a great mood, things are going great, and then pow, the phone rings. And it's some farmer trying to burn up a bunch of pigs and he can't get the thing to stay lit when they close the incinerator door. But as I said, I've been blessed with the ability to get people down the road, and I've always been able to tell people what to do to get something working. There was 2 occasions where I failed to deliver, and I think the project was just a little bit beyond the people working the equipment. I can't expect everyone to be an engineer, and as I said, the subtleties that are cueing me to the direction of course are unutterable. I cannot convey these things over the phone. I'm listening to the burner. The burner is talking to me and it's telling me what it wants, and I can't teach people that mode of communication over the phone. So there was 2 occasions where the customer was very unhappy with me. It's a heartbreaking situation. It really kind of punched me in the stomach there, and I feel bad. They ended up just giving up on me. I feel like if I would have just been there right next to them, I could have had the thing rolling in minutes, you know, if maybe even less. And I let them down. So it's not always a glorious situation. There is a lot of doom involved in this business, you know. But like I said, I've been going for 6 years, and I had 2 customers that I don't want to say they gave up on me. It's not their fault. I was unable to deliver a piece of equipment that was user-friendly. It required a damn engineer to run the thing. It was like a steam train. You got valves and cranks and levers, all this stuff. You can't just jump into a steam locomotive and take off down the tracks. You got to know how to run that thing. And I failed them. I could not make the device simple enough that a novice could operate it. Man, we're cooking here. I still think we want a 16 gauge top plate on that, made out of Inconel 600 or Inconel 625 preferably. The whole thing needs to be made out of Inconel 625, but ain't a lot of people got that kind of coin sitting around. They spend it all on eggs and gas and rent. But I'm feeling really good about this. I shut it off just to show how easy the thing is to light when it's hot. And at this point here, I just start kind of jacking around with it, and what I'm doing is observing combustion stability. It may look like I'm just playing around and messing around here, but I'm observing different flame conditions and taking note of combustion stability. How easy is it for this thing to go out on me when I'm making adjustments? Because if you design a burner that just the subtlest of adjustment makes it go out on you, then you've missed the plot here. You've missed the target, and your objective has not been completed, in my opinion. You cannot sell a finicky, temperamental device to somebody and expect to have a happy week, because you're going to be getting phone calls and you're going to have to express unutterable words. So it's one of those things where my goal is to kind of get a feel for the combustion stability by messing around with it, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. And this thing is kicking off some pretty powerful concussions. So what I've learned here is to tell the customer, you got to turn the fuel down slow or you're going to get a boom. The cops might show up and want to search your house, and you know, this day and age, that ain't something you want. You don't even got to be a criminal. You can be a law-abiding citizen who maybe you got in trouble 20 years ago, and then all of a sudden with the stuff that happened back in 2020, now you've armed yourself. Maybe you're sitting on some heat, you know, and you don't want no smoke. So just be careful. You don't want these explosions bothering the neighbors either. A lot of people don't want to bother their neighbors. So you can see there I'm intentionally inducing these detonations so I can teach people how to avoid them. And this thing will put off quite the fireball. You would never want to run it at this level because eventually the combustion chamber would cool down at these higher fire rates and would no longer be able to vaporize the fuel sufficiently to see the flames that we're looking at here. I mean, I haven't tested that theory, but I've been around the block a few times, and I would say that's probably the case. As soon as, if I were to leave that flame shooting 4 foot off the top like that, in about 3 to 4 minutes, that combustion chamber would cool down enough that it probably would not be volatilizing the fuel that well anymore. We're cooking pretty hot right here now, so it's able to do that. As you can see, it just smokes like crazy till you get a really high fire going, but for the most part I cracked the code. The 3 things we did to make this work on waste oil was that we made it taller than the propane version, or the diesel version for that matter. We went from like 1.5 inches to 2.5 inches, and we also extended the neck. The neck of this thing is acting like a burner in itself. So we did manage to obtain some extreme stability. Like I was throttling that thing all over the place. Most of that throttling you saw was just the fuel. Messing with the air, it doesn't like that too much. You got to have a certain amount of air in there, and then if you mess with the air the way you saw me mess with the fuel, you will get a flame out condition because the burner goes too lean. It doesn't care how rich you go. As you can see, it just makes a bigger flame in an extremely rich condition. Extremely lean conditions cannot sustain combustion. One more note, I was intentionally inducing those detonations just to kind of see how powerful of a detonation you can get from a waste oil explosion. And, you know, contrary to popular belief, you can produce a very powerful levee explosion from waste oil fumes. I could feel the concussion from those detonations in my chest. Like, it was pretty powerful. Like, almost like when you feel an M80 go off, you can feel it hit you in the chest. Those concussions were pretty powerful. They're not dangerous by any means. You're not going to blow this thing up. But to get that type of detonation from waste oil, it's pretty intriguing. You also seen where I was able to toggle the flame and not sustain detonation. Sustain, I should say. I can't talk right now. The detonations were probably only coming from about 80% of the volume of that combustion chamber because some of the interior regions were in combustion. So there you go, Aaron. It's like 12:30 at night. I'm going to send you an invoice and get that thing in a box. It's ready to fly.